All right, we're back. We've got a 2013 Hyundai Tucson. So we are doing pads and rotors all the way around on this. We'll start with the rear. So I got the wheel off, jacked up, wheel off. Those are 21 millimeter lug nuts. Get those off, get the wheel off. We did a flush on this one too. We're gonna flush it all the way around as we go. I've got a separate video on that. Okay, so we got 14 millimeters here. That's gonna come out. Okay, now I did push that piston in through there with a little mini pry bar while I'm flushing it. Just makes it easier, but you can push that piston in when you get it off. Okay, get that one bolt out. You can pop that top one off like that. This caliper's not heavy. I'm gonna let it hang for a second. That's the old pad. So we're gonna get these old pads out here. We're gonna get these clips, these brackets off here, the hardware. I'm gonna get this plug out of this rotor. I'm gonna use my impact screwdriver to get those out. Sometimes those can really be stuck. You're probably not gonna get it out with a regular screwdriver. You need one of those impact screwdrivers to get those out. You got two of them. Sometimes your tip of your bit can break off in those if you have to work on them too hard. So if you have one that's really tough, get some other kind of, use a big socket like this and just set it on that screw and pound on that a little bit with a hammer. That'll kind of help loosen it up. And you can also take a big socket and kind of hit that with a hammer around there and there. Do that quite a bit and then go back to your impact screwdriver to help get that off. So I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna get these pads out, these brackets off, or these hardware off, and get those screws out, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've got those screws out of the rotor. These weren't that bad to get out. I thought they would be with as rusty as this car is. Just pop these the hardware off with a little screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, or pry bar. So now where we're at, okay. So I've got the caliper hanging here. You need to make sure you lubricate these guide pins when you put this back together. We're gonna pull that one out and do that too. I'll do that when I put it back together. On these Tucsons, to get this bracket off for the rotor, you gotta take this 14 out, and there's a 14 right down here you gotta take out. To do that, you gotta take this off. So you're gonna want an impact on this part. You could do it with a ratchet. It'll just, take you longer. I'm gonna hit that with an impact. The bolt comes through over here. You're gonna hold that end. That may be a 19 on that side. Let's see. Yep, that's a 19 on that side. So I think they're both 19. Yeah, so 19 and 19. Get that bolt out of there. You'll take that nut off, and then you may end up having to just drive that back out of there with a hammer, and then you'll take a pry bar and you're gonna pop that out of there. That'll let you get to that other bolt. So let's see, I'm trying to do this on film. There we go, there's the nut. Doesn't even need to hold it really. And then drop that out. So you get the gist. I'm gonna finish getting that out. I'm gonna have to get a punch and finish punching that out, and then I'll be right back. Okay, got that bolt out. Now I'm going to get this pry bar up in there. Just pop that out of there. And don't worry, it's not hard to get back in. You just gotta tap it back in there. Sometimes you gotta straighten this out. As you can see, as it's going down, it's not perfectly straight sometimes. So if you'll tap right there with a hammer as you're going down, you can get that in there. And then just get it lined up. So, okay, got that, and now it's just a matter of taking those two bolts out, which is pretty self-explanatory. Just get them loose however you can. I like to use a 14 millimeter wrench. I'll put it on like that, and then hold it with one hand and just give it a couple taps of the hammer there, and that gets them loose real easy. And you can do the same on that bottom one. So we're gonna do that now, get this bracket off, and then I'll be right back. Okay, those bolts are out. I was able just to use my angled impact and get that bottom one out no problem without having to crack it loose first. So we got the bracket off. Here's your bracket. You are going to take a wire brush and clean up in here really well, and top and bottom. Clean that up really good. I got those screws out of the rotor, so you just beat on that a little bit until you get it off. So you can hit all around. That'll kind of help loosen it up sometimes. You can also hit on the face of it. Just be careful not to hit your studs. You can use a socket like I showed before, or hit it from behind. And so I'm going to work on that now. These are pretty crusty, so it might take me a second. All right, got the rotor off. It came off fairly easy. Just had to hit it a few times. Got the new rotor here. Make sure you clean these rotors really well with brake cleaner, front and back, even in there where the park and brake rides. Make sure you clean the whole rotor really well. They come with oil on them, so you don't want that oil still on the rotor. We're gonna put this rotor on and make sure our screws are lined up on the right side. So you wanna make sure these holes here are lined up with where the holes are there for the screws. That should go on fairly easy. There we go. All right. That's on there. I need to put those screws in. I'm gonna put my hardware on these brake pads. If you've got good brake pads, they will come with new hardware. We use the CarQuest Golds typically. Really good pads. There's one above those, it's the Platinum pad. Just putting these brackets on there. I always do this before I put the bracket back on. It just makes it easier. We use these. The Platinum pads are pretty good too. We'll use those. Mercedes, BMWs, Land Rover, stuff like that, just because they come with the sensors that you need. I don't think the pad itself is all that much better. These Golds are really good. So anyways, so we got that. We're gonna put that back on. I'm gonna reinsert those bolts back there. This is what they look like off, just little 14s. Clean those up with a wire brush a little bit first. Let's see, they're kind of rusty. Anyways, I'm gonna clean those up. You don't have to, but you can put a tiny dab of blue Loctite on there. Don't use red. Tiny bit of blue. Red will make it really hard to get them off next time. Put a little bit of blue on there. I'm gonna put those in, tighten those up, get them cinched down nice and tight, and then I'll be back to put that bar back in, get the pads put in, and then really just grease up these pins and put the caliper back on. So I'll be back. Okay, got the rotor on, got this bracket on, and those bolts nice and tight. Now we need to get this in here. So I'm not gonna be able to do that with one hand. So I'm gonna try. One thing you can do is try to twist on that as you push it down in there. So if you can get something through there, even a screwdriver, to straighten that bushing out, and then just get a hammer and tap right on top of that, and then you'll tap it down until you get it lined up with the hole so you can slip the bolt back through. I always put the bolt back in the opposite way as I got it out, because when you put it in this way, it's easier to get in and out, and you can just get the nut over there. When it's this way, that shock absorber's in the way of the bolt. So why they put it in that way, I don't know. So I'm gonna get that put back together. It's not hard. And then I'll be right back. All right, we're back. We got the rotor on. I put the screws back in where they go. We got that back in. So as you're getting this hitting it down, you'll get it through this gap. Tap it some more, get it lined up as best you can. Once it's almost perfectly lined up, you can push that bolt in and just tap that bolt through with a hammer. And then run that nut down with your fingers, and then either ratchet it tight, or in my case I use the impact and zipped it tight. All right, so everything's tight back there. We got this rear pad in already. We got the front pad here. Just kind of get it set in there a little bit, and then push it in. Then we are going to lubricate those. Now, it doesn't take a lot, but you just want to get some lubricant on those. Okay, so I'm going to do that one as well. I'm going to set this down for a second so you'll be able to see. Back in there, I like to give them a little spin. Okay, so pads are in, everything's lubricated, everything's tight. Slide that one back in, and you can just slide that one right back over. Put that 14mm back in there. Make sure that's tight. I always like to double check the one I didn't touch, even though I didn't touch it. Who knows, maybe someone else left it loose. So I always like to be careful on that. And got this plug here, we're going to stick back in this. You can use a little screwdriver just to help push that through. You can see what I was doing. Alright, so rotor is on, screws are in, plug is in, everything got cleaned up. Both these pins got lubricated, new hardware, pads are in place. Everything looks good, everything's tight on the backside. So there you have it, that's it. Now you'll hear some noise, the pads are rubbing, the parking brake's rubbing a little bit in there, but after you drive it, that'll smooth out. I'm gonna go do the other side. We'll be done with the rear brakes. When you're flushing, if you are flushing, keep an eye on your fluid, don't ever let it run out. And then when you're done, you'll double check your brake fluid, make sure it's, pump the brakes, set the brake pads, because that piston will have to come out a little bit before you drive. And then after you pump the brakes, double check your brake fluid, and then there you have it. Rear brakes are done. I will get to the front after that, and I'll make a separate video for the front. Thanks for watching. Bye. Okay, we've got the wheel back on. Everything's good on this side. One last thing I wanted to mention. When you jack up the vehicle, jack it from the frame up there, not from the suspension in the back, because you don't want tension on that suspension arm that you have to take off to get to the bracket bolts. So you want to lift it in the front so that the suspension's hanging, so that there's no tension or pressure or weight on that suspension. I mean, you might be able to still do it, but it'd be tough. So that's it on this one. Thank you. Bye.